everybody, welcome to episode 48 of Aurelia. In the last episode we have been doing that shopping center that you could have seen in this shot, and we are just now moving over the highway in here towards the park and towards the places that we finished in a couple of episodes later as well. So we are going to be doing more of that light rail line that we have in this suburb area, let's say. So we are going to mostly focus on one station in particular that I actually started building on the live stream, on the first live stream after a really long time that I did last Wednesday. Now, just a reminder, the Wednesdays are going to be just the regular days for live streams. This week, I think I'm going to go for the Altengrad city, and I'm just going to be changing cities as I see fit, right? So definitely make sure to follow me on my Twitch channel, linked in the video description, if you want to see the cities built live. So like I said, we were doing this on the live stream, and I really wanted to focus on just building this light rail station. So it's the same line as before, as 2 episodes back, and obviously it's the same tracks, the same vehicles and all that. So it's mostly going to be separated from the road, especially the main road in here. We obviously are creating this tunnel. I was already planning to build some sort of a tunnel, some sort of a crossing, multi-level crossing for the light rail or the trams, because back in the day I was just thinking that there's going to be trams, but soon, or just a couple of episodes later, like I said, it transformed into a light rail line. Now, we also need to figure out how we are going to incorporate this place together with this pedestrian highway. I was starting to call this the pedestrian highway with the roundabout episode, but I think that the name fits because it's going to be just a very, very long system of these pedestrian paths, and they are going to be going from pretty much the entire city, or through the entire city, really. It's going to be definitely in this form as some sort of a separated pedestrian path that just goes either over some important roads, highways of course, but even these railroads and light rail systems and all that. So it can be even used by bicycles, and people just can cycle, from one side of the city to the other. I'm not sure if I'm going to change the inside of the downtown, places that I built a year ago almost, to incorporate some of these roads. I think I might try, maybe on the live stream again, we can do some changes to the rest of the city. But right now I'm just building it, in these suburbs or around the city center. So we are now having this pedestrian path go all the way from the island city, and just a couple of shots earlier I was connecting it even to the shopping center. So I just put it inside the building of the shopping center. I didn't really do anything else than that, but later I am going to probably detail in some roads and do all kinds of connections so that pedestrians can just walk freely around these places, so that these suburbs, especially these suburbs, or well, it's not really suburbs, but just the broader center, let's call it, are very walkable, right? So definitely more friendly for pedestrians than the center. Anyway, back to what's happening in the time lapse. So this is still what I was doing on the live stream. So we are doing this Sunken light rail station right here, and this is pretty much the first time, well, actually the second time, when I'm using these terrain slopes. Now, these are networks, and they are very, very useful for creating all kinds of these slopes. They come in many different variations, depending on the actual slope, like, grade of the terrain, and they are very, very nice for covering all kinds of different terrain features that are obviously presented by the vanilla tools for terrain manipulation. So for example, right here I could only do those ugly cliff sides in here if I wanted to just sink the terrain towards the platform, but I'm just going to use these networks for the terrain slopes and just create a very, very nice sloped clean green, just like a wall, right? And the transition from the slope texture to the normal texture of the map, I obviously need to hide because there's a very clear border for that. You can see it especially on the left side in there. So I just need to hide it underneath some flowers, trees, and all those things, right? So this place is definitely turning out very nice. I was not really thinking about this too much when I was building this place, but later it occurred to me, and you will probably notice that in the cinematics and maybe even think that it's not exactly good. There's two stations for this light rail network very close to each other. It's obviously the one that we built 2 episodes back, and this one. I didn't really measure it, and don't really want to do that, but they kind of feel very close for a light rail system anyway. But like I said, even in those, in that 2 episodes back episode, I don't really consider this like a 100% light rail system anyway. It's basically just a tram line that's just filling the role of some sort of a heavier tram outside of the downtown, but inside the downtown it's pretty much just a tram anyway. So I think it's fine. And in order to justify having a station in this place, very close to the station, to the previous station, I'm just going to build a couple of medium-rise buildings in this area so that there's going to be, some volume of people actually using this stop to just justify. There's going to be a tiny little office park right across this main road, so that's going to be fine. That people are going to be able to just use this station to go to work there, if they are obviously not just living nearby and they can just walk there. But people who don't, they can obviously just use this station. So doing just some detailing and kind of wrapping it up in here, because this was a slightly smaller project, but as always, live streams tend to be a bit longer, so that you don't really build all that fast when doing them. On this side of the main road, that's this main road that goes over the tracks, I'm also going to build some pedestrian connection towards the city park, so that I'm also going to build this pedestrian tunnel, which is going to go parallel to the tracks. I didn't build it at first, so I had to rework these places to just fit it there. But it's a very nice decoration. It definitely brings something more interesting to the stop area itself. So on the opposite side of this road from that view. And it's a very important connection as well, because people who just live in the nearby area, they might easily use that tunnel to just go into the park without crossing the main road, or people can just get off the tram and just go to the park, even though there is another station right inside the park, so it's not really all that needed for people who get off the tram. But like I said, people who live nearby, they might easily use that. There's not really that much traffic on that road, because there's not that many buildings here just yet, but I suppose that it will be used a lot more in the future. Now in this corner, right next to that interchange that we built a really long time ago, I'm going to build a very small, like an office park. It's just going to be that roundabout building, the curved one, and this slightly taller building in here. And like I said, it's going to be a nice way to justify having that light rail stop in there, even though light rail stops should be probably spaced a bit more, but if it's in these high-ish density areas, then I suppose it's fine. There's also going to be a library right on the side of this office area, and just a couple of low-rise or medium-rise buildings on the side of this pedestrian path. So there's the library. It fits perfectly, this place, by the way. It's a very nice fit. It doesn't really go into the tunnel, so we're not gonna have the foundation of the building shown inside the tunnel, and that corner is just filled very nicely. This library building is another example of a building that's not exactly all that like a cube shaped or rectangular shape. It has some different angles here and there, so it's a very nice fit for all kinds of these different blocks that you need to fill. In this empty spot in the office block, I decided to do this underground entrance. Again, it's some garages, parking spots maybe underneath all these buildings. Maybe even for some residential buildings nearby. I'm not exactly sure about that. But anyway, it's just a decoration really. I'm going to use these new roads that I acquired just recently. They look very nice, so I think that we will see them some more in the future. And then just doing the retaining wall all around it and filling it with grass. So it looks very nice and just clean. We are obviously going to then put some trees in there and just make it look very green, so that it's going to fit the interchange area, because the interchange area, if you remember, we created it also very green, and we are not exactly in the city center, so we can definitely afford to do that. Now back to the portals towards the tunnel for the tram tunnel or the light rail tunnel. We need to create some kind of retaining wall, some kind of solutions in here on the side of that main road, because the angles are not exactly working in my favor. The tunnel is definitely not cutting the road, perpendicular towards the road, so it goes almost parallel to the main road, as you can see. So we need to do something different in this place. So for example, those props as retaining walls, and just hiding those like little overlaps from the road so that the cliff texture is just not visible there. Now, this is something that's very, very important. Like I mentioned with the train line, I would also like to do some of those like first-person rides for some of these different kinds of lines in the city. So either buses or light rail or the trams. Now, in order to do that, I need to make sure that these detailing projects, they look good from the first person. And most of these tunnels do not, because they either don't have the roofs of the tunnels or just something is missing inside them. So this is probably the first tunnel, first detailing project with even procedural objects and all that, that actually looks 100% legit and fine from the inside. Now, I was trying to just, do a little survey if it's going to be possible to do like a 100% line, this particular line, like a first-person ride, because it goes underground quite a lot in the downtown, and that's going to be a huge issue of actually doing something like that. So maybe I'm only going to do it as first-person in these parts of the city, and in the downtown just gonna have to be a bit more creative and figure out something else. But it's definitely a good idea to prepare for any eventuality. So doing this tunnel so that it looks good even from the inside is definitely gonna be a nice thing to have for any kind of future projects or future videos, right? So that's that. It was actually not all that terrible. And what kind of surprised me the most, you could have seen me do that. I had to just select with Move It pretty much everything that was above the tunnel, delete it, and then work on the tunnel itself. And it actually resembled like a real life construction, which was somewhat interesting. And then you can obviously just hit Control Z and put everything back that you destroyed with Move It. So that's very, very easy to work on things, underneath something that you can select and delete with Move It, especially working with procedural objects, right? So this is exactly what I was talking about, just putting whole kinds of decorations, all kinds of decorations into the office area, into the office park, pretty much making sure that even the offices do have some shielding from the noise, from the highway maybe, and it's just looking green, it's just looking nice and green. In this episode, we are not really going to build on that big of an area, but it was very important to finish this corner of the main road, and next to the park, and actually do something about the interchange area as well with the office park and all that. I'm not really going to comment that too much, but later I'm going to just finish the strip of residential buildings right next to the main road, right next to the park, but that's not really going to be all that super interesting. So I would rather focus on just explaining what I'm doing right here with some future plans for this place. So I already mentioned it on the live stream, and it might be a bit confusing. This project, this mini build that I'm doing in here, it might be a bit confusing right now because it's not really going to make much sense on its own. I'm creating in this block, in this tiny little sloped area that just goes from this pedestrian path down towards the tracks, I really wanted to build some sort of a garden or like an outside sitting place for like a restaurant or just some chill place for a gallery. I'm not exactly sure about that just yet. But since I really wanted to, finish detailing this part of the project area, residential area, then I really wanted to already do it. But on the other side of this pedestrian path, let me actually show you the cinematic shots of this place. On this empty spot, I would really like to do, even over the highway, on both sides of the highway, I would like to do some cool residential project. And it's going to be slightly big. So I really wanted to dedicate an entire episode for it. So we're just going to finish the places towards it, and then next week we're gonna, do this place properly. I didn't really want to start it in one episode and just finish it in the other, so let's just have it properly in one episode so that we can see how it's going to develop. But this place, this little thing, like I said, it's probably going to be for some restaurant maybe. It doesn't really make much sense right now on its own. So just a tiny explanation that is just a preparation for, the future project, right? So that's pretty much it. Like I said, we are just going to do some decorations and detailing for these blocks of buildings in here. But that's just, some fillers that we really had to finish from even some previous episode. These couple of buildings I already had here, just needed to detail around them, all right? So that is all for episode 48. Now the plans for the next week are quite clear. We're gonna do a live stream from the Altengrad city on Wednesday, probably starting from 6 p.m. this time, so hour later than previous Sunday. And Altengrad episode is going to follow the next day, hopefully, and Aurelia next Sunday. So that's the plan, guys. Thank you for watching today's episode of Aurelia. I hope you liked it. If you did, then you can always put a thumbs up underneath it. Share the video with your friends and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And if you really like the channel and want to support it, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button below. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy the cinematics. Take care and goodbye.